Welcome, everybody. We are going to talk about why people stay. You know, this is a topic that every leader is really dealing with in some way. We're talking about retention, right? Um, every time that we are talking about it, normally we talk about it in a way that's like, why do people leave? Well, I kind of want to flip that on a perspective and to a different perspective and really understand why do people stay? Because the reality is, people are constantly making a decision, whether they're consciously making that decision or not. Do I stay here or do I start looking somewhere else? And that decision is rarely about one big moment. It's really the accumulation of everyday experiences. So today, we're really going to break down what actually drives that decision, and more importantly, what you as a leader can do in a very practical way. So I want to start with you. We're not going to talk about a theory right now. I want you to think about a time in your career when you had a reason to leave, but you didn't. You chose to stay. What made that decision for you? Was it a person? Was it how you were being treated? Was it the sense of growth or opportunity that you had? I also want to flip that around and say, think about a time you did leave, or seriously considered leaving anyway. What was missing? What made you want to leave? And so in the chat, I want you to just drop one word or phrase. What made you want to stay? You felt valued, teamwork, your manager, yeah, autonomy, comfort, students, people, team, yeah. Flexibility, that's a big one, right? Teamwork, your team. Yeah. So we are always thinking about this, and really a lot of the things that y'all said were the people. It wasn't the job that made you stay, it was the people. And so as we're talking about this, yeah, or work-life balance, things like that. As you're talking about this and thinking about this, I want you to keep that in mind as we're going through this. So the reality is that people don't wake up one day and just leave because of a job description. They're leaving because of their experience, whether that's their experience with a leader, their leadership experience, their team experience, what's the culture like on the team, the way that they feel every day when they come to work, those daily work experiences. And here's what makes this important for us as leaders. We are shaping that experience, whether we realize it or not. It's not those big annual reviews. It's really those small daily interactions. The tone you use whenever you are speaking to them, the follow through you have as a leader, the attention that you're giving, the trust that you build with them. That's where retention really lives. So when you look across research, whether it's from Marcus Buckingham, Adam Grant, or other researchers that study the engagement and retention, these themes are consistent. People stay because of their day-to-day experience. It's not those once a year engagement surveys. It's not the big initiative that rolls out. It's really about the day-to-day experience. The leader relationship matters more than the organization. That direct leadership relationship is one of those strongest predictors of whether someone stays or leaves. So while the organization creates a structure, the leader is the one that creates that culture, that lived experience inside of that structure of the organization. And like we talked about, engagement isn't built annually, it's really built daily in those daily interactions. Do they feel valued here? Are they growing? Can you trust the leader? Do you feel like you belong? So now this is sometimes where we get things wrong. When we talk about why people stay, it's not really what you might think. We assume some of those retention drivers are things like salary. Yeah, salary is really important, right? But it's not the driver alone. We might think about the benefits or the perks or the titles, and all of those things do matter, but they don't just sustain the commitment on their own, right? They don't just get people to stay because people can get those things from somewhere else. There's always going to be a higher salary, maybe a different job title, perks, they come and go, right? But what they can't easily replicate and why people do tend to stay where they have it really good is because they get to have a great experience every day whenever they go to work. They have a leader who truly sees them. They have a leader where they feel connected, a team where they feel connected. They have an environment where they are learning and growing and they're trusted. So, across all of this, it really comes down to four core experiences that people have and why they stay. So, the first one, they stay whenever they feel seen and valued. They stay whenever they're growing. They're giving growth opportunities. They trust their leader and they feel like they belong. I want you to notice something here. These are not programs, they're not initiatives. These are daily leadership behaviors that we can show and we can have people realize. So we're going to walk through each one of these, but I want you to be thinking about where are you strong in? Where might you unintentionally be missing something? And I also want to talk about which one matters most on your team right now. In the chat, go ahead and put which one you feel like is most important to your team right now. Is it that they feel valued and seen, that they're growing, they're trusting in their leader, they feel like they belong? Trust, belonging, growth, growing, trust, seen and valued, trust, belonging, valued. Yeah. And now all of these are important, right? We want all of these when we show up for work. Now let's dive a little bit deeper into each of these. So, reason number one, they feel seen and valued. People stay where they feel seen, where they feel noticed. Not in this like generic way, like, yeah, I see you. One of the biggest gaps that some leaders have is that they believe that their people feel valued, but they don't actually show it in a way that actually lands with that person. We tend we tend to really, move quickly from task to task. We only speak up whenever something's wrong. We assume that people just know that they're appreciated. So leaders often miss this because they're assuming silence equals satisfaction. And that's not always true. Or you're only giving feedback when something is wrong. So we have those leaders who misinterpret the silence as maybe indifference or that they're satisfied with their work. But what does this really look like in practice? How can we make people feel seen and valued? It's really about noticing effort. It's about calling out specifics of things that they do. And it's acknowledging that contribution in the moment, not weeks later whenever it's probably forgotten. So what do? You be specific and timely with your recognition. And you acknowledge effort, not just the outcomes. A lot of the times people feel, when they feel invisible, they start to just disconnect. Why am I even here? And whenever they feel seen, they know that they're valued, they start to lean in and want to do more. So, real quick check. I want to know, when was the last time that you gave specific recognition to somebody? Not just feedback on something they did wrong, but something they did right. Was it last week? Was it today? Think about that. And then I also want to turn this around and say, well, when was the last time you felt genuinely valued at work? Just think about this. So this one is also huge. We have people who are feeling stuck, and they don't just leave because they're unhappy, they leave because they feel stuck. And what's tricky about this is that people don't always say this out loud. They just start disengaging because they have no growth opportunities. And I want to make it clear right now that growth doesn't always mean a promotion. It means that they're learning something new. They're being challenged. They're being trusted more. So, like we talked about, people leave when they feel stuck. Growth looks like the new challenges, the skill development, being trusted with more. So, what do you do as a leader? Well, you give those stretch opportunities and you ask, what do you want to learn next? Because if people feel like their best opportunities are somewhere else, they will eventually go find them. Growth is one of the clearest signals that says, there's a future for me here. I can see myself growing into what I want to be here. And then we have trust in leadership. That's reason number 3. So this is less about, being this impressive person that, yeah, you're my leader, but it's more about being consistent. People, let's see, consistency is what builds trust, not perfection. People do not expect you to be perfect. In fact, they know that you're not perfect. So you don't need to try to show this perfection. But they do expect being predictable. They expect clarity. They expect follow through and honesty. So, what do you do as a leader? Well, you do what you say you'll do. You don't have to have people second guessing your decisions because they know that what you say is what you will do. And you're communicating clearly and often. We don't want any hesitation in the communication. We don't want less openness. We really have trust that's built in really simple ways, right? You're doing what you say you'll do. You're being transparent when you can. I know that there's a lot of things that maybe we don't know or we can't share as leaders, but we share when we can. We share what we can. And we also show up in the same way consistently, sorry. When trust is high, people feel safe to stay. And when it's low, people start looking somewhere else that's more stable. So let's talk about belonging. Reason number 4. This is deeper than just culture in the way that we really usually talk about it. Belonging is not the events, maybe slogans, maybe the surface level connection. They really stay when they feel like they matter. It's that feeling of, I matter here, I can be myself here, I'm known here. And all of that is shaped in these small moments. So it's not about that surface level culture, it's really about that real connection. You actually know these people. So what can you do as a leader? Well, know them beyond just their role. What brings, what do they bring to the table that's not just their role? Do people feel heard? Do their ideas get acknowledged? Are they included in meaningful ways? Well, create space for their voice. Sorry. And when people start feeling like outsiders, even in those subtle ways, there's a hallway conversation happening that they're not included in, they can start making assumptions that maybe they're not included. So when they truly feel like they belong, they stay, even whenever there's things that are hard. Where do leaders get it wrong? Well, obviously, most leaders don't intentionally create environments where people leave, but there are a few common patterns that we see. One of those is that we over focus on performance and under focus on people. We assume everything is fine because no one is speaking up. Everything is fine, nobody's saying anything wrong, and that is a big one where we get it wrong. We also treat retention as someone else's responsibility. Well, HR is the one that handles that, not me. I don't have anything to do with that. But here's the reality is that people don't wake up one day and just think, nah, I'm just going to leave today. They slowly disconnect over time. And that disconnection really starts in those small ways. So they feel overlooked, they feel stagnant, they're not growing, they feel unheard. And by the time someone leaves, that decision has usually been building for a long time. So people don't suddenly leave, they slowly disconnect. So I want to pause right here and think about you as a leader. Of the four ways we talked about, seen and valued growth, that trust, that belonging, where's your biggest opportunity? So, which of the four is your biggest gap? It's not, um, you know, not where you're doing okay, but where do you think that gap is? More importantly, where might your team be disengaging? Where might your team be experiencing something different than you intend? Because it's not really about our intention, it's about the actual experience. And also, what might people not be telling you? Not not everything is going to be told to you. But we also need to know and reflect on our leadership skills. What could people not be saying? So I'm just going to give you 1 minute to write down. And if you wanted to share which your biggest gap or where your team or you or where you've seen people disengaging before, feel free to share that in the chat. And I'm going to look at the chat while I'm giving you this minute. Yeah, so Lane, clarify the importance of each team member's role in the bigger picture. Yes, 100%. And, I'm going to use our team as an example. I think that we are going through some things where we need to really be setting those clarity conversations, right? And so it's not just everybody else's team except for ours. It's every team needs to go through this, especially as you're adding people, you're removing people, things like that. Kelly, this is why I've left almost every position in the past. I don't think I was ever asked how I wanted to grow. Exactly. And, sometimes as leaders, we're like, yeah, we're giving them chances to grow. We're stretching them. But is that how they want to be stretched? It's not how we want them to be stretched. We need to be asking them, how does this make sense to you? One-on-ones with my people are important, and I never make enough time for it. Yeah. Team building where we just go out for lunch or coffee to be away from work. Love it. And Kelly, it's being seen and valued, growth, trust, and belonging. Assumption of no complaint. I feel like our team talks about frustrations, but there should be a direct ask. Yeah, love it. Thank you for sharing. So, really, at the end of the day, people stay because of how they feel when they show up every day, right? It's not just the once in a while, it's every day. And as leaders, we are shaping that feeling constantly. We shape how people experience us. And that is through our presence, through our consistency, our attention, our decisions. So the question really isn't, why do people stay? The better question is, what experience am I creating that makes people want to stay? How do people experience me as a leader? That is sometimes a hard question to confront ourselves about, but we need to be thinking about it, right? So I want you to take a couple minutes and just think about one person on your team, not your whole team, just one person. This might be someone who is feeling unseen, Maybe they're not growing, or you don't see how they're growing, and maybe you want to offer them opportunities to grow. Someone who's losing connection, maybe they're becoming disengaged, or maybe they're just not getting you as your best as a leader right now. Why don't we ask ourselves, what do they need from me? How can we best help them experience the best of us? Let's see. I'm going to read the chat real quick. I agree, Kaylee. Oftentimes the complaints are beneath the surface or amongst each other, and the leadership team is in the dark. If we aren't cognizant of our team or don't ask directly, then we won't be able to address it. 100%. As a leader, you're probably not going to be told unless you have a very high trust relationship, right? Steve, one of my greatest learnings has been the realization that the ideal number of direct reports is the number I can have meaningful growth conversations in 1 week. Yes, 100%. And Steve, I just want to say a lot of this, I was thinking about you because I was given opportunities. I never in a million years thought that I would be doing webinars. Never. And here I am. So really, I want you to be thinking about that one person that you can make an impact and have this create this experience for how people experience you and how we can best support our team. So this is a QR code. Thank you, Steve. That was very nice. So this is a QR code for our team webinars. There's another webinar tomorrow by Kelly, and then we've got a couple more coming up next week before we go into May. I will be posting the May webinars probably this week, and then I'll share those out. Whenever I'm sharing this recording, I'll also include this link, and I will, yeah, I'll be sharing this and some other resources. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time here and engaging in this conversation. Really, my hope is that you leave not just thinking differently, but acting differently, because the impact you as a leader have on whether people choose to stay, grow, and contribute really is all in those daily actions. And that impact is more than you think. You control more than you think. So if you can, please scan that QR code and let me know what you thought about this and other topics you want to hear. All right. Y'all have a great rest of your week and Wednesday.